welcome to day 5, the final day of our intuitive eating series. Today we are going over learn to cope with your emotions without using food. And I wanted to do this last because I think that it really does wrap up everything. Not that we're so much going to go into the other topics, but if you're doing work on the other topics, and you're like, I still have this pull towards food though, then it's probably coming from an emotional space that you're actually using food for things other than being hungry. And so that's why we want to get into learning to cope with your emotions without using food. And it's a little bit tricky because food is emotional in some ways. I know, like for me, I just shared the other day actually that we lost our cat, and it was kind of sudden and it was really heartbreaking actually. It was really sad, and I was super sad about it, and we were going to do like a burial ceremony and all this stuff, and it was in the afternoon, and I was thinking about like, what am I going to make for dinner? And I was going through all of these things, and nothing sounded good. Like absolutely nothing sounded good. And I remember thinking to myself, like maybe taco salad or tacos. I think I was thinking like chicken stir fry. I don't even remember what else. But I was going through this list of things, and it was almost like they felt sterile. I don't know. That's like the best word I can use. They just felt like cold, and like they weren't going to be comforting in some way. And I really wanted something comforting. And there's nothing wrong with that. So it's okay to feel like food does meet some emotions, you know? So I remember thinking like, I feel something more like casserole or spaghetti or something like that. Like I wanted something that was going to feel soothing in a way. And I share this because food does help us cope sometimes, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Like for me, this wasn't in a way that felt bad. I didn't feel ashamed by it. It felt good actually. It felt like it was soothing, and it felt like it was soothing in the moment, and it still felt good after. A lot of times when we're using food to cope with our emotions, in kind of a negative way, it's not going to feel good actually. There's going to be a lot of shame around it, and it's going to feel kind of bad. So that's kind of the difference, that it can feel good and celebratory, and it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong because you are using food for something like that. You know, I want to go back to that too, because it wasn't like it was it also wasn't to like make my emotions go away, right? It was to like help them, to help me feel good about it. It wasn't to stuff them down. And that's also another difference that we might notice about it. I didn't avoid crying. I was crying a lot, right? I felt really sad still. We wrote notes to our cat, and we like did all this stuff. And so I was still going through this whole processing of it. It was just one piece of it rather than an avoidance thing. So it's kind of the differences. But food is emotional. We use it to celebrate. Like when someone gets a promotion and we're really excited, or at the end of sporting events because we win, or for birthdays or anniversaries, we do celebrate with food. It's just part of our culture, and it's okay to have it be tied in with our emotions a little bit. The problem is when we're always using it to cope with our emotions, and it's like our number one coping tool, and we don't really have anything else in our toolbox that we go to. And that's when it can start to feel out of balance, and it doesn't feel good. So if it feels like there is some shame around it, it doesn't feel good, or it's the only thing you're ever using, that's when you're really going to want to take a bigger look at it, versus just being like excited and knowing that sometimes you eat a little bit when you're excited, or when you're sad, you want to eat certain things. Like those things are okay. So there are a lot of reasons that we might eat that don't involve hunger. There's other things, right? So it might be for boredom. Sometimes we're bored. We're like, what else am I going to do? And so we want to go bake something, or we just get out a snack because we're a little bit bored. I think we see our kids do that too, right? We know they're kind of bored, and so they get food. And it doesn't mean, again, that that's like the end of the world if you do that on occasion. But if you're doing it all the time, and it's the only thing you're ever using because you're bored, then you're missing out on other activities. It could start to impact your health, and it's probably not going to feel good. So awareness is the first thing though too. So knowing like, I know that I'm bored and I'm okay with that right now, that I'm just gonna choose a snack. It's a more conscious way of looking at it. It's like conscious eating, that I'm choosing to do this anyways. Or maybe we're with friends and they're all getting ice cream and you're like, I'm not hungry, but that sounds really good. And so I'm consciously choosing that versus just like I'm stuffing down emotions or avoiding things. Sometimes we do eat out of a little bit of boredom. One thing that I hear come up a lot, and this might fit a lot for parents too, is to give yourself a break, right? So if we're always like on the go and doing thing after thing and going from one thing to the next, food often feels kind of like an acceptable way to take a break. So if you don't allow yourself to say, just sit down for 5 minutes and do nothing, or like, skim through a magazine or something, then you might be turning to food because that feels more acceptable to you to say like, I have to eat, so now I get a break. And if you're hungry and you're needing to do that, great. But if you're always using it as a way to get a break, then it could become problematic. And that might not even be conscious. But we might start asking yourself that, could I be using this just to take a break? And would I be better served to actually just give myself permission to take a few minutes of downtime? We might use food as a reward, or we might reward our children with food. That's also very common. This might have even happened to you when you were a child, right? And so now whenever you do something good, it feels like, oh, I deserve to eat. But that kind of takes us away from our own cues that we've been working so hard on developing, like the hunger, the fullness, recognizing satisfaction, if we're always just eating because we feel like, oh, I get to, I deserve to. And it can distract, from what we might really be wanting or needing. Another thing might be to push down other emotions. A lot of times anxiety, we feel like a pit in our stomach. And so that might feel like, oh, I'm going to turn to food because I have this like uneasy feeling in my stomach. It might even get confused as hunger. So a lot of times anxiety and depression are things that people turn to food to kind of calm those emotions because they feel uncomfortable, and it's totally a normal thing to do. Another thing that I hear come up a lot is that food feels like it's a way to like receive love, or that maybe it's about giving love too. So I have a client actually that has this as a really big theme for her. And what we were starting to notice is that when she was younger, food was always restricted by her parents, and especially sugar, like sweets. And so she's done so much work around food, and she's like having such great insight and just feeling like there's no energy. She's like doing great work on her intuitive eating journey. Yet sugar tends to still have this pull, and she doesn't know why she keeps going to it, or she has these bouts every so often of like, I just ate all of this, sugar that was in the cupboard, this candy, and it didn't feel good. I didn't even really want it. I didn't like it. And so what we're starting to uncover is that it was always restricted when she was younger. And then when she met her husband, he would often bring her desserts, and she felt like she really had permission to eat them, and she wasn't judged about her body or about her food. And so it really felt like here he was giving love. And she knows from him too, culturally, that is a way that they often do show love in his culture. And so it's just gotten really complicated for her. It's really tied in with their whole relationship, that's a way that she feels love. And so sometimes when she's feeling sad or lonely, she turns to the sugar, kind of hoping to get that feeling, but it never does it. So then she's left like continuing to go back to the sugar again and again, looking for candy and cookies and whatever might be in the house, but never feeling satisfied because food can never truly satisfy that love. Right? And the other thing is that every time he brings her something now, because he continues to do that, she feels like she can't say no because then that's turning away his love. So it's gotten really interesting to kind of sort through this with her and see what's coming up. And it's really helpful because now they're also growing in their relationship and able to say like, wait, what is it that you actually really need? Like, she doesn't always want dessert brought to her. So he's doing things like making her coffee in the morning for her. Or on the nights that she has to work, he's the one that's preparing dinner. So it's opened up all of this communication for them. And it's also really helping her feel better and more in control of her food instead of like it felt like it was controlling her before. So feeling like food is love is a really deeply rooted thing often, like I'm describing. It's really complex, it's really complicated, but it's really common. So if you feel like you have a strong pull towards certain foods or certain types of foods, you might really want to look at your childhood and how did that food, how did you interact with that food in childhood, or how was it presented to you, or how was it discussed or talked about? When did you have it? There might be a lot of emotions wrapped up around it. So what do you do about all this, right? Like you gain some awareness, which is great. And that's the first step, is like having some understanding and awareness around all of this. Once you have that, you can be more clear on what you really need. Like I was just describing with my client, right? Learning different ways to communicate, asking for things that she actually needs. So depending on the reasons that you might be turning to food, you might do different things to sort through it. Might be like, oh, it's boredom, so I need to find other activities. If it's comfort, I might need to find things that are more comforting to me. Other ways to express your feelings if it's used to stuff down feelings. But I want you to go through the following steps. So when you feel like you're starting to want to eat, like you're feeling drawn to food, the first question is, am I hungry right now, right? Like every time we go to eat doesn't mean that it's emotional. You might just be hungry. So first ask, am I hungry right now? If the answer is yes, and you're clear on that, then just go eat, right? Like you don't have to sort through anything. Just go eat. If you're like, I actually don't think I'm really hungry now. Why do I really want food? Then you're going to ask, what am I feeling right now? What am I feeling in my body? And see if you can tune into, am I feeling a little bit of, a little bit anxious? Am I feeling bored? And am I sad? Am I angry? Angry is another big one I hear a lot of times. And kind of in our culture, anger isn't as acceptable. So that's something that people often try to stuff down. So are you feeling some sort of anger, right? So, and then what do I need, right? If it's not hunger, then food isn't really going to help that much. So what is it that you actually really do need? If you're angry, maybe you need to hit some pillows or something. Maybe you need to go sit in your car and scream for a second. Maybe you need to go for a run and get some energy out. Maybe you need to do some stretching. There could be a lot of things. So to kind of check in, what do I actually need? Now, if you're not clear, you might just try some other activities. So I have all of my clients make a list of activities that they can do when they're feeling like they want to turn to food. So the two reasons you're probably going to do that is, one, you pinpoint, this is boredom. I know I'm going to eat because I'm bored. Or two, because I actually really don't know what's going on for me right now. So let me try some other things first. And then if I'm still wanting the food, I'll go back to the food. But let me kind of check in and see if any of these other activities will actually serve my needs first. So you have to make a list that you're actually going to want to do, because otherwise you're like, why would I do those things? I'll just go eat, So you have to come up with things that you want. But some of the things that we come up with for lists are things like read, watch a TV show, paint. It depends on what kind of activities you like, right? Like adult coloring books, doing a crossword, going for a walk, doing yoga or just some stretching. Might be journaling, taking a nap. Maybe you're really tired and you need to rest. So taking a nap, going for a drive just to get out, organizing something. So maybe you need to feel a little bit productive right now, like you're getting something accomplished. Maybe you want to sit down and plan out your meals for the week, or look through a cooking magazine and put that food energy into something that's going to feel more productive. You might call a friend just to chat, or maybe someone that you know is supportive on your food journey. Maybe write a letter to someone, do a hunger fullness journal, or just journaling in general. So there's lots of things, but it can be hard in that moment to come up with an activity. So you're just going to be like, I'm just going to turn to the food. I don't know what to do. So what you want to do is have this list of activities available so that you can turn to it whenever you're kind of in the moment. So you don't have to come up with those things when your head's already kind of spinning with I just want to eat. I don't know what I need right now. So you want to have that list of activities prepared. So here are your last set of action steps that you're going to do. The first is what we just talked about. You're going to make a list of those activities that you can do when you want to turn to food. Okay. Then the second thing is you're going to get really good at starting to practice asking yourself, am I hungry? What am I feeling? And what do I need? Okay, so am I hungry? If it's yes, go eat. If it's no, then you're going to go to what am I feeling? And then from there, what do I need? And if you're unsure, just start going through your list of activities and do a few things. At the end of the day, if you end up eating, you end up eating, but hopefully you gain a little bit more awareness around what's going on for you and the reasons that you might turn to food. It's not this clear-cut path where you're going to be like, light bulb, and now I just don't do it anymore. It takes a lot of practice to keep going through those steps, but over time, you kind of start to uncover it, you know? And sometimes you might just need more help through this. So I always say, I've said every day, if you need more help, this is what we do, right? So get in touch. I'd be honored to support you on your food journey as you're kind of working through your intuitive eating steps. I just had a client come in and she was kind of sorting through something that had happened over the weekend with going through sweet after sweet and never feeling satisfied and this whole thing. And then she like looked at me with a huge smile and she's like, isn't this so cool? And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, just getting this. Like, it wasn't that she had that moment where she felt uncomfortable and like upset about it. She was like, I get to look at this now. Like before it was her every day that she was just turning to food. It was like every day that it just felt like her normal, that she was always just using food and it didn't feel good. Her relationship with food felt horrible to her. But now it's like there are these instances that she can pick out because they're fewer and far between. So now it's like, oh my gosh, I get to look at this and say, what was going on for me and what could I do different next time? And it's not so emotional, like there's not so much shame around it. It's just like, this is a cool thing that I get to process through. And I just feel honored to be a part of that journey because I feel great that people get to share that with me and that I can support in that. So I love seeing those light bulb moments and people just feeling better about their food. So anyways, if you find yourself struggling, I'm happy to be here and help you hold up that mirror. That's what we do. I would love to help you with that. So definitely schedule your free 15-minute call. Or just shoot me an email. I'm happy to chat either way. And if you missed the other videos, they're up on our page, so go watch them whenever you have time. They don't have to be in a perfect order. They can be in a month from now. None of that matters. This is all your journey, and you might need to go back to them because that's what I find is like you uncover some things and then something different resonates with you when you watch another time. So anyways, I hope you've found this whole series helpful. I know it's a lot of information, so keep going back, checking in with the videos, and let me know how I can support you too. All right, have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.